Hello and welcome to History Through Question.
Today's topic is permanent settlement of Bengal of 1793. This topic is in continuation of our series that is important Governor Generals, and it's come under the Lord Cornwallis. Important reforms. So when Lord Cornwallis became the Governor General, he was directed to carry out an efficient and an effective land revenue settlement. The objective is to ensure the interest of both the company along with the European cultivators. So before carving out an efficient effective land revenue systems, certain important requirements which need to be fulfilled. Requirements are first a proper survey. Next is the land usage detail along with tenure detail plus rents. These all things required in order to carve out the land revenue settlement. Four personalities, important personalities under the permanent settlements or who carved out these permanent settlement is first and the foremost is the Sir John Shore. Second is the President of Board of Revenue. Next is James Grant. And the last but not the least, that is the Governor General Cornwallis himself. When they discussed how to carve out an efficient revenue settlement system, so he came across various questions. Let's discuss these questions one by one. The first and the foremost question is, let's say we talk about a land revenue settlement. So in this settlement, we made settlement with whom? Either with the zamindar or with the actual tiller of the soil. That's the first and the foremost question need to be answered. Tiller of the soil. Next is, what's the state share in this land revenue settlement? Third question is tenure. Let's say the settlement have either the 10-yearly term or permanent in perpetuity. Next important question is, what was the position of zamindar? Let's say if we made settlement with the zamindar, we need to know its position. So again we have two options. First is he considered as an hereditary tax collector and no proprietary rights or the no property rights. No property rights. In case B, he considered as an owner and given the propriety or property rights. Next, what was to be the basis of revenue settlement? When this question arises, there is solution provided, and once the solution is, so we adopted settlement on the basis of highest Mughal settlement as existed in the year 1765. So we adopted and our problem solved. But this system, that is the highest Mughal settlements or simply the Mughal systems, having inherited many problems. Okay, so what exactly is the problems? Let's try to understand. So if we adopted the systems, there is a problems of areas. Let's say, for example, under Mughal time, one piece of land is there. So for that piece of land, an assessed amount is cost, and let's take 100 is the assessed amount, but the revenue actually collected is the 40. So there is a huge area of 60. So this huge area, when a state left with no other options but eventually need to be written off. So when this question came, what was to be the basis of the revenue settlement, so eventually it decided that we made settlement on the basis of the actual collection of the year. So made settlement on the actual collection of the year, that is of the 1790 to the 91. Next question is settlement period. This is an important question. When this question, various proposals made. One such proposal is that we adopted the 10 yearly settlement. So when we adopted this 10 yearly settlements, there is no need for the proper survey or the demarcation of the boundaries, and it can easily doable with the limited means of assessment. But Lord Cornwallis opposed this view and advocated that this settlement must be permanent and perpetual in its nature. He made a statement that 10 yearly settlement is not sufficient for the zamindar to introduce any kind of reforms. Let's try to understand this with an example. Let's say zamindar granted the zamindari of 100 hectares of land. Out of this 100 hectares, 40 hectares comes under the fertile area, 20, that is the moderately area, not so fertile, and the rest remaining 40 either the forest or either the waste land. So this 10-year time period is very short for the zamindar to introduce or to convert this first 20% land, that is of moderate nature, to the fertile, and last the 40% land, that is of forest or the wasteland, into the fertile land. So forest land, first forests need to be cut it down, or the wasteland for various reforms need to be introduced. So that time period is not sufficiently. That's why Cornwallis advocated that this settlement must be permanent and perpetual in its nature. Now let's talk about the actual settlement. Okay, now after various debates and discussion, finally zamindars were considered as the owner of the land, and in 1790, the time when this settlement introduced, at the time it was in 10 yearly settlements. Later in 1793, the settlement became the permanent settlement. Okay, on the state demand, so the state demand was fixed at 89% of the rental and 11% of zamindar share. And we already discussed that key basis for the revenue settlement is the basis of actual collection of the year. Let's take hypothetical example. Actual collection in the year 1790 to 91 is rupees 100. So out of this 100 rupees, 89% is the state share and the 11% or the 11 rupees is the zamindar share. Okay, now let's do some observations in the forms of, first we discuss the advantages and later on we discuss the disadvantages. So first and the foremost advantage is, so with this settlements, company ensured the fixed and stable income. So fixed state income, that's the first and the foremost advantage. Second is, there is no periodical assessment or the settlements, so it saves the government expenses. No periodical settlement or the settlement, so it saves the government expenditure. Third advantage is, so under permanent settlement, it was expected from zamindars to introduce various reforms in the agriculture, and when zamindars take reforms in the agriculture, its prosperity increases. Okay, such as wasteland need to be recultivated, and so that soil conditions would improve, or the zamindars encourages the reforms such as rotation of crops and use of manures, irrigation, etc. So these expected from the zamindars. Let's talk about next advantage that comes under the political category. So it created a class of loyal zamindars, and it expected from the zamindars that they defend the company because their rights were granted by the company. And a classical example of the same is 1857 rebellion, when the Bengal zamindars became extremely loyal to the Britishers. And sometimes it was said that the political benefits of the settlements balance its economic defects, because under this various economic defects are there in the permanent settlements, but its political benefits in the form of loyal zamindars, it's outnumbered its economic defects. Let's talk about the advantage under social category. So it was expected from the zamindars acts as a natural leaders and indulge in the various public welfare activities such as education and other things, or agriculture reforms as such. So these are all the advantages of permanent settlement. One more important thing is permanent settlements also expected to free European servants or the company's able servants, which in turn used for the other important services such as judicial services, and not became the victim of the cultivators' harassment as well. So these are all advantages. Now let's talk about the disadvantages. First and the foremost thing, except first few years, permanent settlements became an highly exploitative and an oppressive arrangement. And this settlement, or some sort of in this arrangements, it created the two major problems. First is the feudalism at the top and the serfdom at the bottom. So in short, if I tell you what exactly is feudalism, is a type of social and political systems under which landlords provide lands to tenants in exchange for their loyalty and service. And serfdom, as you already know, that is an unfree laborers, okay, who work the land of a landowners or a tenants in return for their physical and legal protections. Also is simply definition of serfdom and the feudalism. Now, first and the foremost thing, if we talk about the disadvantage under financially category or the economic category, such as state started losing in the long run. So try to understand with the help of various cases. Let's take case A. So in case A, let's take is an area. So this area's prosperity increases, but state unable to increase its revenue from this land because it was earlier fixed and the settlement is permanent in its nature. Case B, let's say new land brought under cultivations by the zamindars, but the rents of the land already under the cultivation was already decided by the state government. So if the revenue was increases manifold, but state are not in a position to increase its share. So under revenue settlements or this permanent revenue settlements, even the state demanded, it was the fixed in the 1793 and it remained the same in the years 1954. It was remained the same till the year 1954. Next important thing is disadvantage. Political settlement, it completely stagnated the Bengal's economic progress. So it stagnated the Bengal's economic progress. Because next is the zamindars. So it was expected under the permanent revenue settlement that zamindars introduced various reforms, but zamindars not ready to take any agriculture reforms and even became the extracting agent. They extract as much as possible rent from the ryots along with the cultivators, okay, and there is even no incentives to improve the land. Zamindars at the same time also considered as a distant suction pumps. It's because they lived in the distant cities and not in the actual estates. Basically, they used to be present in the actual zamindari areas where the zamindari rights are granted, but they live in the cities, distant cities, and not in their actual estates. So that is why it uses a word that is the distant suction pumps. At the same time, under the settlements, number of intermediaries with the passage of time increased. Again, a very major problem. Number of intermediaries emerged between the state and the actual cultivators. So it increased with the passage of time. So this process of sub-infeudation, it's became one of the main tool for the harassments of the peasants. Okay, so let's say zamindar Zamindar made settlements with the state, but under this various intermediaries existed, and these intermediaries tried to extract as much as possible revenue or the rents from the peasants. So ultimately the conditions of the Raiyat or the peasant is deteriorable day by day. So if we summarize that, next to the war, famine and the epidemic, the worst thing that can happen to the rural communities is the absentee landlordism. Okay, so that was extreme, some sort of an arrangement that was witnessed by the Reyes at that time. Now, disadvantage in its political nature. So let's say talk about, so Zamindars became although loyal to the company, but at the cost of the alienations of the masses, because it resulted that rural society now divided into the two classes, that is the Zamindar class and the tenant class. So it created division in society. So in one way it created the Zamindars that became loyal to the government. On the other hand, the tenants faces the worst form of oppression and the exploitation by the hands of Zamindars. Next disadvantages, it destroyed peasants in the every possible way. As Zamindars extract as much as revenue from the peasants or the Raiyat, so their property and occupancy rights now left at the mercy of the Zamindars. So when Zamindars demanded the high rent from these Raiyats or the peasants, and when peasants unable to provide the same, so there is an element of ejectment, so due to which the peasants lost their property or the occupancy rights. So that is why it made a statement that their property and occupancy rights now left at the mercy of the Zamindar. So again, one of the major disadvantage under this settlement. So after analyzing its disadvantage and advantage, we clearly made a statement that its disadvantage clearly outweighs or outnumbers its advantages. Even from the very starting of the settlements or the introduction of the settlement, Zamindars facing various problems, and the problems such as high state demands, that state demands was extremely high, over assessment, and last but not the least, the faulty revenue collection system. Faulty revenue collection system. Next major problem is the sunset law. So under sunset law, what will happen? Zamindars required to deposit revenue in government treasuries by the sunset of the last day that was fixed for the purpose, and when Zamindars fail to do the same, then their land will be confiscated and auctioned to the next bidder. Auction to the next bidder. Okay, so in this way, these all elements deter the bidders to bid, and there is frequent changes in the ownership of the lands. Ultimately, it's completely affected or adversely affected the conditions of the cultivators as well. Okay, so in that sense, we can say that in the 20th century, economic insufficiency and social justice of the settlement, it became quite evident. So this is all about the permanent revenue settlement. Okay, and we discussed its background. What are the important questions first need to be addressed by the that is the masters of this revenue settlement, and later on we understand the proper arrangements, advantages and disadvantages, various elements which played an important roles in the failure of this settlement. Okay, so thank you very much. If you like this video, please do like, share and subscribe.